Hi guys, welcome to my annual review of the WRTH, the 2026 80th anniversary edition. So most of you will know that this is very bittersweet because this edition, the 80th edition, is the final copy of this book to be reproduced in print, and from 2027 onwards it will be available as an ebook or using the Radio Data Center web app only. And the reason for that is, well, essentially the decline of AM radio, which I will touch on briefly. And because of that, the decline in readership of the WRTH, which is, for me personally, a real shame. It's the one thing that I sort of look forward to every year. And to think that this is the last version that I'll be able to hold in my hands, you know, it's it's a sad moment for sure. But these are this is the ugly reality of a business. You know, has to be commercially viable, and if it's not commercially viable to produce this book in print at a price that the market can bear, then unfortunately, it's going to be all over. I mean, I would actually, I've not spoken to Gunter about this, but I would be interested to know what the price of this book would have to be, given the current levels of readership, what the price would need to be for it to remain commercially viable. So, you know, what if you had to spend €100 to buy this book, or €150? Would it still be worth it? You know, and I know that we have different pocket depth, etc. But for example, through my work, if I have to buy books from academic publishers such as the IEEE, you know, you can spend £200, £300, £400 on a technical book in a niche sort of subject area. This isn't much different from that. So, you know, I think I'll talk to Gunter and just explore that with him. But, you know, don't hold your breath at the end of the day. All I'm really saying is that although most of us consider the book to be already reasonably expensive, would you actually pay more if you had to, if that made the difference? And I think I definitely would. So anyway, just bear that thought in mind. So because of this being the last year, I think I made even more use than normal of the 2025 edition, which has been well used in the past 12 months. The 80th edition is a bit of a bumper edition, 800 pages in the 2025 edition and 832 in the final printed edition, which is great. The features section at the front, I think, has got 90 pages rather than the usual sort of 60-ish. But let's run through it anyway. I mean, the reason I keep buying this book and why I keep promoting this book is because it's the most accurate resource available anywhere for radio transmitter information, you know, broadcast schedules, etc. There are some excellent websites that you can use, short-wave.info, for example, and shortwaveschedule.com, two that I started using when I got back into radio 11 years ago, and they still exist and I still use them. But this book has always been by far the most accurate reference source for my DXing activities, which is why I find it invaluable, and which is why I want it to continue, and I'm grateful to Gunter and his team for it to have continued in print form since 2023. And I'm also grateful to them that it will continue in digital format beyond 2026. You know, it kind of doesn't matter what I want really, but you know, the bottom line is that better to have it in digital format than not have it at all, and we should all be grateful for that. So anyway, let's just run through it and see what we've got. So, inside front page, an advertisement for Sanjin. Since 1974, I, for one, wasn't aware they've been around that long. They probably haven't been in Western markets since 1974, but they've been around a while. A world of listening, although those aren't shortwave radios. They're probably, well, they're DAB internet radios, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know. I've got a DAB radio, a Roberts. I don't use it, to be honest with you, and I've never, very briefly, had a dabble with internet radio. So anyway, 80th edition, 2026. a little advertisement for Radio Data Center for the guys themselves, the services that they provide. And then an advertisement from Micro Telecom, which I believe is part of ELAD now. And I say that because I saw the Perseus, or the original Perseus, or maybe it was the 22, on the ELAD website. Did I imagine that? I don't think I did. So great to see an advertisement from Micro Telecom near the front of the 80th edition of the WRTH, and there's some new software, etc. I won't go into the details of it. Features and reviews. And then an advertisement for the digital platform, and then the editorial kind of just covers the sort of radio landscape from when these guys took over publication, and just runs through the reasons why they're not able to continue in print with a print version from 2026. So I won't go. I'll let you read that because it all makes sense, but it's just obviously sad for us to hear. An advertisement for the ebook version of the WRTH 2026. You can get it by just scanning the code. Right, Hall of Fame, standard. So a list of everybody that's contributed to the data contained in this book. It relies on local information from people dotted around the world. It's a big list, and then there's a feature on Frederick Duran, who is one of the contributors. This is really interesting. So Christoph Ratzer has managed to copy 4QD Emerald and 5AN Adelaide. So these are Australian medium wave stations from his QTH in Austria, which is quite amazing. I've tried to copy Australia and not had any success. It's more normal for DXs in sort of Scandinavia, in northern latitudes, to be able to copy Australia on medium wave. I think the ionosphere is more stable in northern latitudes. Obviously, you get much longer hours of darkness, which helps. So there are sort of various advantages, but not Austria in the centre of Europe. But so that's quite amazing, and I think he's had both of those contacts confirmed, so which is amazing. Not contacts, you know what I mean, reception reports. So I haven't read that yet, but that looks really interesting. Australia in Austria by Christoph Ratzer. There's a review of the Reuter RSR 200B SDR receiver. That's a new SDR receiver as far as I'm aware. Reuter have a very strong technical reputation, I know that. And I can't remember the product code, but they produced a portable sort of SDR, which I looked at several times actually. So it's quite a detailed article on the new Reuter SDR, followed by an article on the Jaguar SDR software for medium wave DXs. Jaguar software has been around a long time. I don't think I've ever used it, but I know that there are a sort of hardcore group of DXs that do use it, so I'll read that with interest. And then another piece of software, WavView DX, this is kind of like post-processing software. So if you, for example, did a recording of the entire medium wave band over the hour from 5 to midnight to 5 past or whatever, this is a nice piece of software to sort of cut out chunks of recordings on various frequencies to capture them, the audio, etc. This is kind of what I do, but without using this piece of software. So that will be interesting for me to read, and probably some of you. And then an advertisement from Benito NTI featuring all of their antennas really. Bonnie Whip, Tick got that, brilliant compact E-field antenna. Megactive 305 FT, Tick got that, brilliant E-field antenna. The Gig Active, not tried that, but I imagine I know it's good. And the Mega Dipole DX, which I do have, that's also excellent. And the Megaloop FX, which I use all the time in parallel with my Wellbrook. So, Wellbrook no longer with us, unfortunately. Andy passed away 2-3 years ago, I can't remember. The equivalent for me is the Megaloop FX. the performance is so similar to an ALA 1530 as makes no difference. So I highly recommend any of these antennas, but particularly the Megaloop FX. Then there's the receiver guide 2026. And I'm just looking down here to see whether I can, so the Microtelecom Perseus and the Perseus 22 appear here. Reuter, RDR, is there a Reuter in here? I'm trying to find, yes, RDR51 Pocket, that's the receiver I was talking about. So as usual, the HF receiver guide is split into portables, budget, and then the sort of more serious shortwave, tabletop receivers, etc. So I've got a few of these obviously, but there's a lot I don't have. Interesting that the portables are heavily represented by Texan, of course. And then the sort of more serious shortwave receivers, you've got, Microtelecom, SDR Play, Reuter, ELAD, of course, and then AOR. Oh, Belka. So Belka DX Max is in here. So interesting. Okay. Then we've got a review of the, I don't know how you pronounce that, the Quadson DX286. Little travel wideband multiband radio. No idea whether it's any good or not. I quite like the hard case, which is sort of reminiscent of the Sony SW55 and the SW1 sort of hard travel case. Actually, I had a hard case for my my Texan H501X actually. So it looks quite a nice little radio. Whether it's any good or not, I don't know. Read the review, and then there's an advertisement for it, which is nice. And then we go on to a section covering sort of radio landscape. So there's an article on the radio landscape. Excuse me, might just take a slurp of tea. So this isn't Norfolk in southern England. This is Norfolk, a remote island in the Pacific Ocean. And an article on the radio sort of landscape there. A similar article on Gibraltar. No license fee, mockingly cheap electricity in short, Gibraltar. These are all by Manfred, I think they're all by the same guy actually, Manfred Ripich. Yeah, he obviously travels a lot. So I've been to Gibraltar for a day. A really, really interesting place. It's like the UK, but in the sun. It was, amazing to spend a few hours on the rock. And actually, the day that I was there was some kind of event going on with the local radio station, funnily enough. It was a long time ago. And then an article on latest developments with DRM, Digital Radio Mondial, as you guys all know about. I love the idea of DRM, I really do. If it was going to save shortwave, even better. I hate the audio quality. It's so sort of tinny and echoey, but the idea that you can broadcast a very stable signal that doesn't suffer from QS Baker, etc., and fading. But the audio, I find the audio terrible to my ears anyway. But again, should be an interesting article to read. And then we've got reception conditions expected during 2026. So this is kind of a standard feature. And then the most suitable frequencies matrix for 2026, whereby wherever you are in the world, you can cross-reference the area of the world that you want to listen to, and it will tell you which band to use for what time of day and what time of year. This is never going to be perfectly accurate, but certainly a very good guide. I've used this before, and it's a standard feature. A little explanation on how to use a WRTH, which a lot of us won't need, but anyone who's new to the book certainly should read it. And then a list of all of the DXing and amateur radio clubs and partners, of which there are several, British DX Club, the ARRL, amongst several others. So good to see the support from various partners there. A shame that it's just not enough to keep this book in print. And then on to the maps. So North and South America, these are maps that show the various sort of important transmitter sites, as you can see. There's several dotted across North America, several dotted across South America, but not many in Africa, but you get the idea. It's slim pickings in terms of the total number of transmitter sites. China looks quite healthy. as you can, but then, you know, China Radio International's presence on shortwave is huge. So yeah, but the rest of the world, it's fairly slim pickings these days. And then we've got the world time zone map, which is standard. And just looking at the South Pacific Ocean map, actually. So you've got Port Vila, Rangitaki, Kununurra, that's radio reach beyond Australia. Anyway, Agana, radio, yeah, so that's Guam, etc., which I think is closing down or closed down. But anyway, it's in the book. Got the world time table, so that's the time zone reference, and then there's a feature on our land, climatically favoured, demilitarised, autonomous. So Manfred Rippick on his travels again, and then on to Tonga, again just the radio landscape and some history from the South Pacific, and then Lesotho. So this guy has been everywhere, and it all appears in the 80th edition of the WRTH. And then The Life of a Vagabond DXer by Don Moore. So this is a guy that obviously travels a lot, takes DXing equipment with him. This is a little bit, well, similar to what I do when I'm traveling, although I don't ever travel internationally just to DX. I do it because I'm either working or on holiday. This isn't too dissimilar to the sort of setup that I would take with me, you know, like when I went to America last year. I went to Pittsburgh and then to Texas. So it covers, you know, basically life on the road, what he takes with him in terms of equipment, where to DX, and then when to realise you've got to move on. So that's interesting. Spider beam advertisement, shortwave listening. So that's interesting. We provide, you know, they do telescopic fiberglass and aluminium masts up to 7 meters, from 7 meters to 26 meters. Wow, even I didn't know that, and I'm a radio amateur, fully licensed. So they do, okay, so I guess 26 meters would be aluminium, but nice to see an advertisement from Spider beam in there. A little bit, maybe a little bit too little too late, but you never know. And then Gunter Lorenz himself, a short piece on looking back to when he first got his hands on a copy of the WRTH in 1975, which is, I have read that, it's really interesting. And then an advertisement for Texan, the S220X PLL World Band Receiver. I've got one of these now, and I've got to tell you, it's not very good. The AM audio is pretty poor, I've got to say. So much so that I was in two minds whether to send it back or not. I've decided not to, but I've got an S220X, and I haven't tested it on shortwave yet, but on AM, the audio quality is terrible. It sounds like it's the AGC's cutting in too quickly, and it's clipping. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's a second radio. The H501, it's not, put it this way, the H501X is night and day audio better than the 220X, the S220X in my opinion, whereas the PL368 is absolutely superb, as is the PL880, but there you go. Anyway, so that's the front end of the book covered. So then it's just onto the standard feed. I'm not going to go through this. You've got national radio, international radio, frequency lists, TV, and then reference at the back. If we go to frequency lists, okay, what's this? So we've got on page 644 is the sort of DRM B25 schedule, which is a nice touch. Not something I'm going to listen to. And then if we go to, let's start with medium wave by region. Everything starts on medium wave by region for Europe, Africa, and Middle East is 153 kilohertz, Algeria chain 1, and obviously antenna Satellor from Brod in Romania. Now, I had a quick flick through this. In the 2025 edition, there were 71 pages of stations on medium wave by region. In this section, there were 71 pages of medium wave by region in 2025. In the 2026 version, there are 63. So we've lost 8 pages of worth of stations, which is just not just stations, but obviously number of transmissions, which is slightly concerning. But obviously we know that AM radio is sort of dying a slow death anyway. So that's the first bit of bad news. And then if we then go to shortwave stations of the world, which will start, I guess, with that low power Australian. Yeah, shortwave Australia on 2.31 megahertz. In 2025, there were 47 pages, and in 2026, there were 44. So I've dropped only 3 pages worth of transmissions, but that's not just the number of stations, that is also, the number of stations, that's the number of actual transmissions as well, so which I guess skews it slightly. So they're just my observations, really. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that for now. You get the idea. But, you know, this is still such a useful reference that, yeah, I still, as I said, it's such a shame that it's not going to be around any longer in print. But, you know, such is life. And then just finally, at the back, we've got the sort of reference section. So you've got geographical area codes used in the WRTH. So, you know, for example, AFG means Afghanistan, Andorra, AND is Andorra, and then a general list of abbreviations, which is also useful, particularly if you've not used the book very much previously. Transmitter sites, location and decode tables, so basically, you know, the closest city, latitude, longitude, etc. Target area codes, clubs and publications for DXs. So, and there's still a lot of clubs around the world. So there you go. Especially in Europe, there's still a club in many countries. So in Europe, there's DXing clubs. Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Denmark, Finland. Well, I won't go through them all, but there's quite a lot. Same for Asia. So that, you know, there's still activity. You know, there's still a lot of us listening. And then there's a standard time and frequency sort of transmission. So these are things like the National Physics Lab in the UK, time signals, etc. So there's some information on those and schedule information. There you go, United Kingdom National Physics Laboratory, or National Physical Laboratory on 60 kilohertz. So that's interesting because they're going to stick around, I'm sure. International broadcasting organisations and institutes. So, you know, the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union, North American, and then some selected internet resources for DXs and radio listeners. And there's a couple of really good links on here. I'll leave it at that. So there you go. Back page advertisement from Nortel, transmitter hardware, etc. So there you go, and a list of advertisers. What's the advertisers index look like compared to 2025? It's a bit longer this time. Don't know if you can see that or not, but that's the list of advertisers for 2025, and that's the list for 2026. So there you go. But anyway, that's my review. A review of the ebook is coming, and a review of the web app is coming. But that's a review of those platforms, not another review of this book, although I will be using the data from this book. So that'll be coming in the next few days probably, or at least one of them will anyway. So anyway, I wish you all a very happy new year. I wish you good DX. Let's keep our fingers crossed that something momentous happens and this decision to not publish the WRTH in hard copy print could be reversed somehow. Make a sign of the cross. Let's all pray and see what happens. But until I speak to you all again, have a great new year, and I wish you all the very best, DX. Thanks, and 7-3.